I, James, founded and work for HPI, but do not represent them or any of their opinions.
Welcome to Season 9, Episode 328 of the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast. Every week, we definitively answer one question about the future of tech. To do that, we take into account many factors, including the companies involved, the people working for them, their marketing, and of course, the technology they're developing. I'm Matthew Dean Furlo, and making well over $400 million in the first week in the box office is my brother James Furlo. I'm assuming you haven't seen Black Panther yet.
I feel like, didn't we talk about this last week?
You steamrolled it last week with Justice League.
I did.
Which you said was the best movie ever, that was your.
Did you watch it?
I watched it in the last week.
What'd
It's
you think?
fine, James. It's fine. It's not great. It's fine. I did, and the one scene that everybody, I'm going to spoil it because everybody likes it. That's really fun is when the Flash tries to outrun Superman.
Oh,
And
you know what? That entire scene is just fantastic. But
Yeah.
I'm a Superman fan, and so this last week I rewatched two scenes, and they were his two main scenes because they're just my favorite.
How are we doing this? We're talking about Justice League again.
Yes, yeah. Thwarted. That's how I roll.
I know, man. But seriously, Black Panther is on.
It's pretty good.
It is on a course to beat The Last Jedi for box office, which is
Not
insanity. It's good. It's probably going to beat Civil War, which is not so crazy. I mean, it's just this movie's a tank. And
is it just the movies that good, or are we just that excited for Age of Ultron coming up? And they timed it just right in the year, maybe. And Disney doesn't care.
Yes, they make a lot of money no matter what. Black Panther is only $8 million behind Civil War, and a week after it came out. I think it's good. I think it's really good. I think they did a lot of things right, and honestly, one of the things that is good about it is it's not super snark based. It's quite earnest, actually. Which is kind of tonally different than a lot of the other Marvel movies. And
It's true.
And, and honestly, it's like part of the reason why Justice League's so good is because Superman's just a genuinely like hopeful guy all of a sudden. And, it's like, wow, that's right. That's what Superman's supposed to be. And there's this sort of earnest superhero vibe that you get from Black Panther that Marvel really hasn't done a good job at with any other characters. And there is truth to
I feel like this earnest is with Captain America, but
yeah,
he's also gotten complicated the longer he's been around. I think muddies it. But he was definitely earnest in his first one.
That's actually, it's 100% true, and a lot of people loved him for that, and and it's undeniable that at least part of this is that he's a black superhero, but he's like a really, I don't know, it's funny because one of my best friends asked is like, is this just like a generic superhero that happens to be black? And I'm like, well, part of what makes the movie great, I think, is the fact that like him being black is like integral to his character and his story arc, but it's also just kind of a generic superhero movie. And that is really powerful in and of itself, is that, as if you are an African-American kid looking for a hero to look up to, who's just sort of a generic superhero, you've got one now. And,
okay.
Which I can see why, especially on a worldwide market, I think that has a lot of strength to it. And the main actor, like, there's really great acting. Like, the main actor's going to be a worldwide.
Look at you gushing.
It's a good movie. I just wanted to balance everything
when it comes out. I'll
You're a DC fanboy. I get it. I gotta
unapologetic.
Unapologetic. But James, it's not what we're here to talk about.
I should probably disclose that at the top of the show.
So the question that I want to propose this week, and it's going to take a little bit of setup, but the question I want to answer is, what comes after peak smartphone?
Peak tablet.
There we go. So
next episode.
Yeah, done.
Peak VR.
Let's go back to superhero talk. So the article that kind of spurred this thought in me was the Register had they oftentimes report on smartphone sales across the markets.
Mm-hmm.
And the big headline here was worldwide smartphone shipments were down for the first time ever. Chinese phone grow, Apple and Samsung went down. So, but one of the really interesting things about this is that a lot of your markets where Samsung and Apple have been huge since the beginning, UK, Japan, America, are fully saturated. Those markets aren't growing. And Apple has made a lot of its growth by stealing customers from Samsung as opposed to expanding new markets. Whereas a lot of these...
Do we have to say stealing? I should probably mention another...
They're winning. Yeah,
another disclosure here.
Yeah, right. By winning over customers from...
Yes.
And one of the interesting things here is that most of the smartphone growth has been happening with companies like Xiaomi and Huawei, Chinese, Oppo, Chinese phone manufacturers who are making super basic or just super commodity phones that have become their like lowest possible price. And they've had a lot of growth in China and India and countries where
in developing markets.
There we go. And so the question is, have we hit peak smartphone? Is it what this is? Is this a brief hiccup that has nothing to do with it, or have we gotten to the point where pretty much all these markets are saturated and they're not going to grow any further?
It's hard to think that it's just a blip, given how many cell phones have actually been sold.
Yeah. So my first thought is, I don't want to spend too much time asking the question of, is this peak smartphone? Because my sense is that if this isn't it, we're only months away from it. We're here. And so the question,
that's fair.
To me, the bigger question, the more, and just to give a little bit of background, there's a pretty good quote about several major factors caused the market shrinkage, said Anshul Gupta, research director at Gartner. First, upgrades from feature phones to smartphones have slowed right down due to lack of quality, ultra low cost smartphones, and users are preferring to buy quality feature phones. Second, replacement smartphone users are choosing quality models and keeping them longer, lengthening the replacement cycle of smartphones. Moreover, the demand for high quality 4G connectivity and better camera features remain strong. High expectations and few incremental benefits during replacement weekend smartphone sales.
Yeah, so, the way I would say that is slightly different, which would you say the product cycle development side of it has matured, where there was a while there where like you wanted to get every incremental phone because the leap was ridiculous. Right. And now you could have a phone that's 3 years old, but you're like, oh, you know what? Works all right. If you don't want the latest and greatest, I do, but not everybody needs it. Yeah. And so, I totally get that.
I mean, the latest and greatest is not there like it used to be 5 years ago.
You got a phone.
Yeah, cool. You get the new 10, people might be curious, but like 4 or 5 years ago, that was, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I remember because I got the 10. Man, I've had like probably less than a dozen people. I'll pull it out and they'll go, oh, is that the 10? And that really only lasted for like a week or two. Yeah. And then it was kind of like, oh, whatever, they're everywhere. But I remember, I think it was when I got the 6. It was the Plus. That's what it was. 6 Plus.
Right. Yeah.
That was one where, oh my gosh, like everybody wanted to see that and look at the screen and see what it was. And I remember even when I got the original iPhone, yeah, that's right. Full disclosure. There's a lot of people who want to see that one too, but yeah, this one round, which is funny. Like I'm more excited about the 10 than the others, and which probably because I own it right now. But I'm like, yeah, no, people, whatever.
I think to me there's two factors to this, right? Two consequences to what you just said is that we sort of hit this mature thing. Number one, the return on investment for R&D dollars is shrinking. You know, you got to spend more and more money to get new features that are going to really impress and drive sales. And
we've talked about this from a startup standpoint. If you're in a mature market, it's super hard as a startup because the requirements to just have a minimal viable product are already huge.
Right. Exactly. And but even for these big companies, they're less excited about dumping money into these two new features for these phones because
you're moving on to hard problems to solve.
Yeah, exactly. But the other piece of it is that because you've got these super commodity, because there's so many competitors and the vast majority of the smartphone market is all super commodity phones, just as cheap as they get. And they're pretty solid and they last a pretty good amount of time. And the consequence of that is that consumers actually they spend less money up front and they spend money less frequently. So consumers have more capital in their pockets individually to spend on whatever. And companies are less excited to spend huge amounts of R&D to try to make new features. Because like you said, they've now moved on to hard problems. To me, the reason why I get excited is because desktops were around for 10, 15 years before the first laptops came around, and the desktops hit a saturation in the market, and then laptops started to explode onto the scene, and there was explosive growth and innovation there until kind of those things tend to peak at the same time. The innovation and the saturation kind of go hand in hand, and that usually primes the pump for the next thing.
The next big thing.
And so
what are we at? We're at a little over 10 years. Oh, iPhone 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. It's like we are like.
So we still got 5 more years before the next big thing really comes.
Is it 15 years?
Maybe it's here already.
I'm gonna say. Well, I think chances are it's here already. Just like
it's the new voice smart speakers,
smartphones.
I feel like we're still in the Treo days of that.
I would say the BlackBerry days. Yeah.
The BlackBerry days.
Which is, I think that's the important part here is that one of these technologies probably is quote the next big thing, and that everybody's going to get excited about for a bit. But
yeah, is it voice? Is it VR? Is it AR? Oh, I think it's AR. Is it? I don't know. I'm trying to think. Wearables? No.
Swearables?
Wearables.
Okay.
Swearables.
Did you ever watch the movie What We Do in the Darkness? It's a mockumentary about vampires, and there's a scene with.
Oh yes, that is the Flight of the Conchords guys. Yeah.
And Waititi, the dude who directed the latest Thor movie was the director of this one. And but my favorite scene is they've got werewolves in there, but they're like nice werewolves. And somebody cusses at the vampires, and the leader goes, "Hey, no swearing. We're werewolves, not swearwolves." Good stuff.
I watched the trailer for that, and it looked hilarious. I should watch the whole thing.
It's great. It is definitely worth watching, and it's it's got that weird sort of. It's mostly just funny jokes and puns and stuff, with just a splash of like the really sort of dark surrealism that you get from things like Flight of the Conchords. It's good.
Nice.
But it's anyways. So yeah. So I think the obvious. I think you and I sort of feel the same way. It's probably not drones. It probably is
3D printing.
Oh yes. It might be reusable rockets. It might be cars. I don't know. Those are definitely. I feel like consumer electronics and cars keep getting closer together, but as markets go, I think they're still pretty far apart. Just because of the.
I think there's room for both, right?
Yeah. I think it's the important part. We stopped buying as many laptops as frequently, and as a consequence, could afford smartphones every year.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now that people aren't buying smartphones every year, we're going to get to the point in a couple of years here where we're okay buying the next cool thing every year. And,
Yeah, that's true. Smart speakers.
yeah.
No.
I don't think I think smart speakers are really neat in that we've talked about this before, but if it's got a decently fast onboard processor and a Wi-Fi connection, they'll just keep getting better. You don't necessarily have to buy new ones every year,
Yeah, that's true. Well, and it's one of those where it's like, again, it's like, you can make a speaker great, and then you add a voice assistant, and like the opportunities for adding features and differentiation are limited.
Yeah.
It's all software, as you were
Yeah.
just saying, which you can continue on that for a really long time without ever changing. And I think this is more of a hardware discussion. Like, where you pouring your resources into from a hardware standpoint? At least if you think about it from where the companies are investing their R&D, I think they're all continuing. I mean, software. Yeah, I don't know. They've kind of stopped really doing big strides on desktop computers or laptops, just because it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Microsoft would probably disagree with me, but it looks very similar.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let's take a quick break here and let's get to the nitty-gritties of this.
All right, man. Well, this episode is brought to you by emojis. Emojis are a good, convenient way of communicating your emotions through hieroglyphics. You can do lobster emojis now. Those are optional. Got smiley faces, thumbs up. Use them all over the place, specifically your smartphone.
Yes, I do.
Cross-cultural communication. They're a wonderful thing, and they're supporting.
I tend to use a thumbs up for I read this. Thank you. It's like a read receipt, if you will.
Right. I use the thumbs up as opposed to KK. I used to do KK to everything. I don't know why. But
yeah, the thumbs up. The really big ones, like the Bitmojis, those kind of like a Bitmoji thumbs up, those kind of annoy me. It's like, look, if you're gonna take the time to get like a big picture of a thumbs up, make it worth my while. Like, find something fun. Don't just give me the standard, like a bigger version of a thumbs up. Either give me the quick thumbs up, or like make it fun. Like, actually go out and find a GIF that more closely represents your feelings towards this.
Yeah.
That's a weird pet peeve of mine. I know people where they will just send me like it's just a bigger picture of a thumbs up. Like, what are you doing? That's weird. I think it's weird. Maybe it's not.
Wait a second. Doesn't that just automatically do it if all you do is send the thumbs up emoji?
Just makes it big?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's the case because Let me
check. Where's your name? Your phone number is... Okay, let's see here. I don't even have... No, see, that one's fine. What you just sent me, that's fine. I mean, I'm talking like it's 2 to 3 times that size.
Really?
Yes.
Man, who does that? That's awful.
I'm not going to call them out on this podcast because it's not fair. But yes, no, it's like they have a picture of a thumbs up and sent that. I don't know if I'm accurately describing it, but
no,
I'm like, if you were gonna like do that, why? Just like give me something good, like add some motion to it. I don't know. Anyways, I feel like we are emojis. Yeah, they're good. You should use them appropriately.
Go out and use emojis. Share some emotions.
Emojis. So speaking of emotions, here's an interesting thing about smartphones that Catherine Nicholas of The Week kind of posed. She asked the question, why don't smartphones have nicknames? And let me ask you this. Does your smartphone have a nickname?
No.
Do you call it my little slate? No, I didn't think so. So she points out to like historically, people would name things. We would name our homes. We would name our, well, not me, our boats. We would name our cars. We would We would even name, in a lot of cases, people would name their computers or their laptops. There was this familial, I don't know, connection, this relationship that people would have with their devices, to the point where they would name them. And then when you finally had to give it up and part ways and go on to something else, there was an emotional loss that was there. Yes, emotional excitement. I feel like you're just like, whatever. There's an emotional excitement around getting something new. And again, there's that loss of giving up something. But for whatever reason, when it comes to smartphones, that's not the case. Even though in some ways they're the most personal device that a lot of us have ever owned, they literally capture our memories. We don't just, and are with us when we're making memories, but we don't name them. And when we get a new one, we tend to not lament the loss of the old one anymore. And it was at that point that the article kind of trailed off and didn't hit a good point. I was kind of hoping for like, here's the psychology behind that. That didn't happen, so I was kind of disappointed. But other than to say, maybe it has something to do with this whole asset light generation where people don't really want to own things necessarily. And you never really owned your phone to begin with because you're on this 2-year contract type of thing. Even though I'm like, that's, your house is the same way. But anyways, it was just this thought. And so, which we were talking about peak smartphone, where it was like, go ahead.
My thought would be this. I actually think it's Apple's fault. I think that Steve Jobs went really, really far out of his way to want, like, there was a really big move sort of leading up to the iPhone that there was 100 different flavors of smartphones. There was a lot of diversity, and find the one that fit you, even though the features were all pretty homogenized or they weren't really capable of much. And then the iPhone came along, and one of the big complaints is that it made you look like a sheeple. Everybody had the exact same iPhone.
It's true.
But that was a Steve Jobs thing. It was something.
Maybe people they fall in love with their cases and not their phones.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the differentiation is. Everybody had an iPhone. That was the important thing, and then you'd get your case to give.
Or like me, no case. That's right.
And Steve Jobs and Johnny Ives hated cases until they finally had to jump on board and make a case, and you can tell they still hate them.
My wife, if I'll have her do something on my phone sometimes, every time she picks it up, she's like, oh my gosh, it's just all glass. I'm going to break it. Like, she'll just set it down. She can't even handle it. It's fine. It's okay.
That's funny.
It's not going to bite you. I mean, don't drop it, but you could. Yeah. But I thought it was just interesting that, our phones, we just, for whatever reason, as personal as they are, we also don't have this personal connection with them. So it's like you hear, peak smartphone, you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't even hurt that much. I will say this. There's a phone that I'm going to get.
Oh, tell me about it.
I'm very excited.
Really?
Yes, I'm super excited. It's a Nokia. I know.
Okay.
The company that makes Nokia phones, but for the record, for those of you who are annoyed by the way that I say it, that's the way that that Nokia employees say it. I'm just doing it right. But the Nokia doesn't make smartphones anymore. What company?
No, they don't.
HMD.
And they're thinking about getting out of the health fitness stuff, which is,
they're just closing their shop.
Who knows what they do anymore?
So HMD, the guys, they're bringing back the 8110 back to life. It's a retro classic. This thing, it's got a slightly curved handset and a little slider that comes down with the microphone and the slider.
Yeah.
It's got a keyboard. It's black, and it's from The Matrix. It's
nice. The Matrix phone.
I have wanted one of those phones. Since the first time I saw The Matrix, which was significantly after they stopped making those phones. So I was like willing to spend big money on it. I was a big Matrix fan. Still am. I was just
you're gonna get this phone and do what with it?
I don't know. Probably make calls on it and stuff.
Okay.
pop my SIM card in there. It's got LTE support across Europe, which is pretty good. It's only $97, James. For $97, I'll figure out what I can do.
You can live the dream.
Exactly. It's a big deal to me. I don't know. I like it.
That's funny. It's got a camera. That's nice.
Yeah, the review of it.
The T9 is gonna kill you though.
Yeah. The Tom Warren, the author of the article, he was just like, yeah, I took a picture with the phone. It was awful. Fair enough. So the point.
I was gonna say that's not why you're buying that phone, and they know it.
Well,
they're as bad as Nintendo.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, honestly, yeah. It's the phone from the Matrix. Do you want it? Yes, I do want it. Can I have it, please?
Worst part is they probably could have set it at $50 higher, and you still would have bit.
Oh yeah, probably.
That's all right. You wouldn't pay $200, but man, you'd pay $150.
I definitely would think about it for an awful long time.
Oh, peak smartphone. You know, one of the things that does happen when you hit peak smartphone, when the market appears to be maturing, is that's when differentiation really genuinely starts to play a role. Because before that point, your forecast is pretty easy. How many can we make? Okay, let's just make. That's how many we'll sell.
Right.
And because the market's expanding, everyone's kind of enjoying it. And I mean, I'm oversimplifying it a little bit, but at least the big players, for the most part, you don't have to try very hard. But as the market expand or starts to contract and get bigger, like you said, the only way you're really going to grow at this point is to steal or win over customers. And it's this weird, like, you get that through differentiation. But like you said, at the same time, doing new innovative features is super tough. And so you find, like, I actually think that Nokia phone is like right up the alley. It's like, yeah, this wasn't hard to do.
Right. Yeah.
We're trading on something other than just this is the best camera out there. But I think you're just going to start to see more and more of that, which is what you start to see with laptops, right? Where they went, like, remember the netbook days?
Right.
Then, yeah. Then they had like the super slim or whatever they're called. Ultra portable. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then there was we're going for the super dense, the UHD screens, or UHD. That's right. So so you'll start to see you continue to see similar things with smartphones. I think that's obviously, they've taken a lot of cues from the PC world already, but that's what will continue to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna the other thing that happens is consolidation. That's the other big trend.
Yeah.
So we've already seen some of it, but not a lot of it, and we should start to see more of it. But so expect some more. Expect Nokia to lay off some people. Oh wait, that's already happening. Right. And they're already merging their divisions, right? They're merging their cell phone, or no, it's not. It's HTC. I'm sorry. HTC is saying that they're merging their smartphone and VR division together. And so, and they're going to lose like 425 people or something like that in the process. And so that's a perfect example of what you're going to start to see. Before we close this show, I got one last story to share because it's smartphone related.
All right.
At least we think it is. So it turns out that Apple has made around 1,600 false alarm 911 calls from their Elk Grove recycling facility. Which, it's funny. My reaction was similar as yours. Like, oh, that's kind of funny. They're like, yeah, it's about 20 a day. Is what they've been pumping out. And to which Apple was like, we're going to investigate this. Because they took a very serious tone for it. Like, this is stealing precious seconds from people who are actually in trouble. And we just have it, which I'm like, okay, yes, genuinely a problem. But I think we can all kind of also half smile and go, oh, yeah, something's going on. Yeah, let's fix that. But
do they know why it's happening? What's like?
Apparently, it's when they're taking it apart, and they also say they don't know if it's the phone or the watches, but something about the way that they are handling it, they'll make the phone call. in the process. So yeah,
that's really
just kind of
funny. It's part of the
messing with
automated system too, so it just happens like all the time.
about 20 times a day. Yeah, just kind of interesting. All these, it's amazing how pervasive cell phones are in this world, and all these little tiny weird things that happen like that. You just go, oh wow, yeah, crazy. So our question for you is, what do you think is the next big thing? Do you think it's VR? Do you think it's wearables, 3D printing? Do you think it's 3D printing? Do you think that it's AR or VR or voice enabled assistance? I still feel like the self-driving cars is its own category. But what do you think is next? What do you think is next? Send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. You can check out all the links to this show on furlorose.com/328. It's 328. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Play. We'd like to say thank you to Andrew Orlowski of The Register, Tom Warner of The Verge, Catherine Nicholas of The Week, and Christian DeLooper of Digital Trends, and then finally, Shrin Raji of CBS Sacramento. And I'd like to say thank you to you guys for those of you who do sponsor the show for sponsoring, and also to Emojis. Thank you, Emojis. I am James Furlo, and my Black Panther fanboy is Matthew Furlo, and so we will talk next time.